it's this sense of we can have a better future, and it needs to be so different. We know it needs to be different. There's too much inequality, climate change, biodiversity crisis, the ecological and climate emergency. We know that the way that human beings are on the planet at the moment isn't working. We want to do earth care, people care, fair shares. Permaculture brings this really powerful idea of perennial agriculture, stable soils, stable water, from which we can then create sustainable settlements which are more self-reliant, where we can have good community life and we can look after each other. For some people, reading books and concepts is enough to be really inspired by permaculture. But I think there's a point at which you need some sort of almost immersive experience.
Teach people about permaculture by demonstrating it as a practical thing. So, most people go down the permaculture route of they do an intro and then a design course. Maybe some people go on and do a diploma, but that's not for everybody. So it's about having all of these centres of best practice, of best permaculture practice, as hubs within communities around the UK, where somebody can come and be immersed in an experience and they leave that experience understanding what permaculture is.
But the intention is for it to be a network, and a network that is supporting each other. I need to learn about
organic veg box scheme on your project, or it might be that you want to develop a medicinal forest garden. So it might be that you can access someone within our network who is able to support you with developing that particular element.
There's two aspects. There's making sure that the project is right, but then there's also the work of managing the network and using the network to increase learning, research. And when you've got a network, you can then do a different sort of marketing. You can collectively market. I mean, at the moment, I think we've probably got, actually, in a sense, we've got an ecotourism.
We've got some projects, we've got the Sustainability Centre, which is huge. We've got big farms using regenerative techniques. We've also got people who are running land centres in their back garden. That we create this network of centres where if you are somebody that wants to apply permaculture in your own life, there will be at least one centre that's relevant to your situation. So whether you're a farmer, whether you have a terraced house with a backyard, whether you have a big garden, whether you're living in a community, whether you're based in a community garden or a community centre, there will hopefully be some projects that speak to your situation.
In this garden, which is what people mostly see when they come here, it's been going for 31 years, since 1990. It's 800 square metres. That's a fifth of an acre in old money, 0.08 of a hectare. Peak yield in this garden is 1.25 metric tonnes of food. We're down a bit this year because we haven't got to feed visitors, so we don't have so much need of food, and the freezers are still full from last year. Yeah, 32 species of bird nest in this garden. At least 22 come for their lunch and another 20 come on their holidays. That's getting on for 80 species of bird. Fungi and trees. There's over 200 trees in this garden. There's getting on for 100 varieties of apple. In May, there's 60 different species of plant in this garden you can eat in a salad. So people often come here and ask about companion planting, So we'll say, okay, if you plant tagetes, French marigolds, with your potatoes, you reduce the chance of bad nematodes eating into your potatoes, because they don't like the root exudations of the marigold. This is companion planting, but the reality is the companion is the whole garden. Everybody is helping everybody else. Everything is growing into everybody else, and it's actually about process. It's about how these things work together. Generally speaking, teaching here, we've taught permaculture design courses, we've taught forest gardening, we've taught food preservation as the main things that we have been able to share with people. These successive tidal waves of climate change, various collapses of the global economy, rising sea levels, more plastic in the sea than fish. These things aren't going away. So one of the biggest challenges we face in future is mental health. If you put your hands in the soil, there's a bacterium called Mycobacillus vaccae, and it causes the brain to release serotonin. Good reason not to wear gloves when you're gardening, So gardening physically does actually make people happier.
My name is Molly Campman, and this is Alara Garden, and Alex Smith is the owner and runs both the muesli company. So that's what they do. They create cereals here, what he likes to say, the most sustainable cereal company in the world, with all compostable packaging. It's delicious. I've gotten to try it myself, and also has turned the land around the site into various permaculture spaces. All the trees that are planted along this strip of space in front of Booker are fruit trees. Well, most of them are fruit trees. And so that was just, Alex had asked, noticed that there was an open strip of space that was just grass, that could be more, and so asked the owners of the Booker space if they could, you can go in down here, if he could, make it more of a useful space and more of a beautiful space, and secured the trees to plant in here. And so you can see that everything's been harvested off them already, but we came and tends to once a year mulch around the bases. Booker tends to maintain the grass, and there's quite a few apples, pears, maybe one or two cherries, and at the end an elder tree. You can see that what's here is not really matured very well yet. There are some other bunches that got bigger that are kind of back up in the vineyard. But also I'll point out that kind of around this perimeter, there's also there's an apricot tree there. There's a bed with some potatoes underneath the apple tree. It's a bit hard to access, but there's all along that kind of behind the pallets, other various bits planted in. Things just pop up. There's some horseradish here that made its way. There's some horseradish in the back. Don't know how that got there, but why not let it stay? And you can, I won't encourage anyone to kind of walk up into the vineyard, but he's got some steps, so that's how we kind of go up and then go along the rows to be able to maintain it. Kind of replaced the wires at the front this year. This looks like it could be gooseberry. There's the potato vines just down there. So Alex has really gone kind of all out on using every bit of space. There's it's incredible in such an industrial setting that kind of around every corner that you peek, there's something growing.
As you've noticed, we've no gardens here, so the children really, do play on the streets. So we really made use of this space, and it was nice for it to be nice. And we had flowers. We don't always have flowers, but we had flowers to make it colourful for them. And that were our seating area, so every day, every morning we sat there and we did our values, kindness, being kind to each other, respecting living things, that were growing, and it were lovely. We've just taken this potatoes from here. As raspberries didn't do as good as usual. I don't know why, but as raspberries didn't. As apples did amazing. We've got loads of apples. It's just tomatoes. We've had absolutely loads and loads of tomatoes.
So has this garden been designed to be accessible? Because
Yeah.
my background was in horticultural therapy, and I look at this, and to me, it's the dream. It's flat. The raised beds, which make it much easier for people with mobility problems. Well spaced, so you can get a
well spaced. We can get a wheelchair, or we can put a chair up next to a raised bed, and that's why the floor's down. As well for this new group that's coming.
Yeah.
Oh, we're having 2 new groups, aren't we, a gardener? But we've had some lovely people pass through his garden. Lots of people that we'd have never met, and you'd be surprised, the most unlikely friendships formed.
Welcome to Hembant then. We're a little small permaculture farm between the mountains and the sea, and we're up in northwest Wales. We've been here for 9 years, and we're on a little bit of a mission to try and prove really that you can take a small farm on a mortgage, that by using permaculture and holistic decision making, you can make that small farm pay its way through producing real food, that you can build soil, build biodiversity, build social capital, and that you can enjoy it. So the idea is, anyway, if we're copying that savanna grassland system, is that we wanted to break the farm up into as much edge as possible. So kind of maximising that edge habitat through the whole farm. And also we want to keep those cows moving. And so these tree lanes are essentially, there are wolves. So they enable us to keep the cows moving through this system every day. And so this is our kind of herd that's following the cattle around the system. So we've got 300 hens, and they move every other day onto fresh pasture. So what we've done is we're breaking the whole area down into 23 metre wide tree lanes. So every 23 metres on contour, kind of following that kind of yeoman's keyline design, we're breaking the whole system up into these nut-based tree rows. But before we do that, to help us clear the land, we're bringing in this little kind of forest team, really. And so there's 5 of these somewhere. You can look at the ground before they go into a space, and then the ground once it's had a little bit of time to recover. And actually, it is diverser where they've been. So this is no dig market garden, and so we kind of came from this, this kind of bigger holistic context, this big kind of permaculture side of it. So, one of the most destructive things that humans do is cultivation, and so we wanted to avoid losing topsoil, wanted to build soil. So we don't do any cultivation actually, and it's all no dig. So it's based on putting compost onto the beds with wood chip paths, and this is a really kind of particular part of our system. I guess it comes from Richard Perkins, really. And actually Hembant's almost capable of providing not a whole diet, but really going in that direction. Actually, by the time we do meat, dairy, vegetables, and eggs, actually you've got a big part of our diet. And what's exciting actually is off this tiny area, we're only really using 20 acres of the farm hard, we can produce nearly a significant part of the diet for 60 families off a tiny space, actually. And I kind of figure if we can do that, then, I don't know, you can kind of save the world. And I'm not even a farmer, so if I can do that, then actually the potential is huge, isn't it?
So what we're actually doing at the minute is land is in a period of review and just checking in with the land centres, seeing how they're doing, and finding out what kind of support they need so that we can look to offer that.
It's about being able to do kind of collective marketing and say, as a network, you can come and visit permaculture. Come here and you can touch it, taste it, see it, smell it, get your hands dirty, be involved, you know, as a visitor or as a volunteer or as a learner.
When somebody wants to become a land centre, they get in touch with me. They will fill in an expression of interest form, so we will get a sense of what their project is, what their aspirations are in terms of what they would like to become, and you know how they want their project to develop. We get a sense of why they'd like to be a land centre, and then we share with them. We have a list of criteria, so there are quite a few things that you have to be able to achieve in order to become a full land centre. So a land learner is somebody who is going through the process of meeting the criteria to become a land centre, and often that's done with the support of a land tutor. So that's in the UK, that's somebody who is a diploma level tutor who is able to guide projects through their sort of practical design work to be, you know, to be able to demonstrate permaculture excellence.
People can help each other, so that's what a network does, and then the association can hold that and then support people more in the future.